targets for terror. Let's turn our attention to what would you do if you are in the path of open fire. Michele, welcome to Think America with Terry Gilbert. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right. Now, you know a lot about the U.S. SHIELD law, and you give advice on this. Let's go through some practical measures for this listening audience, this nationally syndicated show here, that if someone is in the path of open fire, let's say it is at baggage claim at an airport, or let's just say it's open fire wherever, it could be a restaurant, whatever. What does one do, practically speaking?
Run. So the endorsed method of what to do if you're in an active shooter situation by the Department of Homeland Security is very simple. It's called run, hide, fight. And so your first choice is always to run. And so you want to drop your luggage, drop whatever is going to weigh you down, other than your children, grab your loved ones, and run the opposite direction. And so it's important here to know where, the firing is coming from, where that active shooter is, and then, of course, to find an exit that is close to you where you can safely get yourself and your loved ones out of there and run until you basically no longer hear those gunshots.
All right, so you run, and then let's say that's the first option kind of doesn't work. Where do you hide?
Okay, so what we need to look for when it comes to hiding are places that we can conceal ourselves, and then on top of concealing ourselves, we want to hide behind something that is going to withstand a bullet. So, for instance, if we're in the airport, there's lots of concrete pillars, there's lots of concrete walls that make up our airport. So if you can get behind a barrier, a concrete wall, or perhaps even the engine block of a vehicle, that will withstand a bullet. So if you're able to get behind one of those, that's the best way to hide, as opposed to just hiding behind like a drywall, for instance, which a bullet we know can overpenetrate and hit you.
But this, of course, assumes that you have the wherewithal, the presence of mind to sort of gather your thoughts. You're first hearing the gunshots go off and you don't exactly know what it is. I mean, some people don't know. They're not around gunshots going off, so they're disoriented a little bit. Third thing you said is fight. How do you fight when somebody has a loaded weapon? What do you mean fight?
So if you can't run, if you can't hide, then you've got to fight like your life depends on it, because it probably does. And this is where you basically use everyday items as a weapon to try to defend yourself or to neutralize that threat. A great example of this is a fire extinguisher. As you mentioned, this airport is a soft target. And so when you go into an establishment that is a soft target, perhaps take a look to see where the fire extinguishers are, because if something were to go down, you can get that thing off the wall and spray it at the individual, which will then blind them. They'll have trouble breathing. And then, of course, hopefully they'll drop the weapon and you'll be able to grab the weapon and neutralize that threat if you need to.
Now, I noticed you didn't say play dead. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
Nothing. All right.
Nothing's wrong with playing dead.
So does Department of Homeland Security address playing dead?
No, they don't. Only Terry Gilbert addresses playing dead.
Well, maybe I should go work for them. No, we always hear these phrases, stop, drop, and roll, or whatever the phrase was, in a fire. Or I always heard play dead, just play dead. And I think in Orlando, those that did, some of their lives were spared in the Orlando terror attack.
Absolutely, and we saw that with Orlando, and for those who remember, we saw that with the Columbine and Virginia Tech shooting. There were students who played dead, and their lives were spared. So, yes, I'm glad you bring that up. That's a fantastic option. If you can't run, if you can't hide, if you can't fight, play dead, and perhaps that individual will pass over you, or perhaps not even notice you, and will just go the other way, and you will be safe.
What is your take, since you're very savvy on this, and I'm sure you've studied this Fort Lauderdale situation? It just seems to me that we need, as a nation, and a new administration coming in, looking at a whole bunch of other things in addition to security at airports. But this is paramount. We've got all this front-end security. Take your shoes off, go through with your hands up and get an x-ray of your body and all that. that. And senior citizens in wheelchairs, they make them dance around and get through all the security. And yet on the backside, oh, take anybody's bag, leave, get you an Uber, you're good. This is a soft target. And when I first heard this story of this guy, 26 years old, coming from Alaska, and then was able to get bullets into a gun that was on baggage claim, get that gun armed in a bathroom, and then come out and slaughter people, that says to me, our security parameters on the backside need to be really reevaluated. What do you say to that?
Oh, I agree. And I think we probably ought to take a look at our friends over in Israel. I mean, look at any airport in Israel, you have got law enforcement, you've got security, and they are armed with long guns, and they have an intimidating presence.
That's right.
Not only Israel, I mean Belgium, and you go overseas and you see these high-capacity firearms being carried around by law enforcement at the baggage claim. You don't see that here. So I think you're exactly right. We perhaps need to reevaluate, when you're coming off that plane, when you're going to baggage claim, perhaps have a heavy security, armed security presence to perhaps deter any nutcase who wants to try something like this individual did in Fort Lauderdale.
Well, it certainly was a Brussels-style attack. Brussels itself is looking at this as well, this backside. I'm not, saying that the next step is to have this sort of snake-like line coming in where everybody's car is searched and so on. I mean, how in the world would we manage that at certain of our airports in the United States? However, this anybody's bag is anybody's idea that a bag comes off a carousel, I mean, this was clearly planned. We've heard this week that maybe he took an oath to ISIS. I can't confirm that. Investigators are still looking at it. But my God, all this front-end security. And what do you say is the airlines, and for that matter, the airport's responsibility? If I pay for a ticket, Michele, and part and parcel of that ticket means my bag gets to arrive on that carousel, but I haven't left the airport yet. And then there's nobody to say that bag is Terry's bag because they've done away with anybody to check your baggage claim. I think the airport has a due diligence toward me to protect me until that bag is in my hand so somebody doesn't steal it, number one. And number two, until I get in my cab and I drive away. Don't you?
Oh, absolutely. It really is amazing that we can get off our planes and we can just go grab any bag we want to and leave the premises. It really is amazing that it is now 2017.
And there's no liability. Well, the airlines, I mean, everybody, they act like, well, the plane is safe, so you're on your own. Bye-bye.
That's exactly right, which makes you think, I wonder if there are any lawsuits out there that are against the major airline companies for losing luggage and perhaps people sustaining serious monetary damages because somebody picked up the wrong bag, and you would think we would have a better system by now.
When I first heard this story, I thought it was a conspiracy. I didn't think he acted alone. I thought he's flying in, he somehow has bullets that came through baggage claim, and somebody from the outside placed a gun on that carousel because it's such an open space. In other words, he had help. And then he knew to grab the bag that was green or blue or had an identifier on it. There's a lot of black bags, but you can identify it. And then he comes in with his bullets. He picks I thought he had help. It just seems to me that he would have had to have help. But now we find out he acted. This was very plotted out, and he absolutely attacked in a wide open space, soft target.
Yeah, and it's hard for us in our hearts of hearts to understand how one person can do this much damage on his own, which explains why you thought it was more of a conspiracy and there were accomplices. However, it just goes to show, no, this guy was a lone wolf, which is the most dangerous sort of active shooter because they're hard to track, they're hard to prevent. You don't know they're going to do it until it's too late. But, yeah, it just goes to show how easy it is to grab your luggage off that carousel, go to the bathroom, pull your gun out, load the gun, and then go wreak havoc on innocent, unarmed civilians.
We're down to about a minute, maybe less. Michele, in your expertise, when this stuff happens, How many copycats do you think we're going to be looking at that are going to take advantage of airport soft targets because of this guy? Quickly, we're down to 30 seconds.
All right. Well, I mean, anytime there's a great tragedy like this, you've got sick individuals who are going to look to get that sort of fame and get that sort of TV time. So I think it is likely that there is some idiot out there who is going to want to do the same thing.
We need to leave it there. Michele Byington, expert attorney on U.S. Shield law. Hope you come back and visit with us again.